Hey everyone, thank you for watching today. I am Dr. Erin Mayfield, founder and CEO of my new medical practice, Lifestyle Medicine, Wellness and Recovery, where we help people lose weight naturally, feel younger and stronger, and get off medications. One of the ways that people can lose weight and still eat delicious food with lots of protein is to focus on whole food, plant-centered eating. We all have experienced holiday eating with meals loaded with fat, salt, and sugar. So we created this holiday cooking series to demonstrate cooking some wonderful dishes that you will love and will save you from gaining 5 pounds in December. Over the next month, your cooks will be physicians from the EntreMD Business School. There are 11 of us who have volunteered to cook in our kitchens and share delicious favorite plant-based recipes. This is going to be a lot of fun, and we hope that you can attend them all. So we are so excited to have Dr. Shenelle Wilson with us today. She is the founder and CEO of this amazing nonprofit organization called Urology Unbound. She's also starting her own private practice in the Atlanta area, and she was named Young Urologist of the Year by the National American Urology Association. She was also featured in the MD Atlanta publication. And that's what I woke up to one morning, was reading about Dr. Wilson. So she has special interests in women's health. She also works with men. She works with sexuality issues, pelvic medicine and reconstruction. And it's just a privilege to have her here today to share her expertise. So she's going to talk a little bit about her practice first, then we'll get to cooking, and we're going to have a wonderful chat about all things health as we cook. So take it off, Dr. Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Mayfield. I'm Dr. Shenelle Wilson. Thank you all for being here with us. As stated, I'm a urologist and urogynecologist in the Metro Atlanta area, and I have a nonprofit organization dedicated to increasing diversity in urology called Urology Unbound. I'm also opening my practice, hopefully in February of next year, and that will be the Metro Atlanta Urology and Pelvic Health Center. So I'm so excited to be with you all this evening to cook a plant-based recipe with everyone. I actually was a vegetarian for probably the first half of my life. And so even though I do eat animal products, for the most part, I am plant-based. And so I'm excited to bring a recipe that's very easy for everybody, that you can modify for the holidays and really just eat year round. And these are green beans. So yeah, we get ready to get started.
Okay, let's do it.
All right, so the first thing is just, I have the pot heated to medium heat on the fire, and I'm just gonna put in some olive oil. I, for the most part, eyeball everything. I'm gonna try to tell people quantities, but I'm very much a free-form cook. So I put about a tablespoon, 2 tablespoons of olive oil inside of the pot. Let that start getting warm. And the first thing we want to do is just kind of get our onions cooked and softened before we add in the green beans. So you can use any onion that you want, but I usually like red onions because they give a beautiful contrast. So I just have this third of a red onion cut up. Now let's get that put in and get that started to saute.
It won't be but a couple minutes and we'll be able to smell that wonderful aroma of the onions cooking.
There's nothing like the smell of onions cooking. Put onions in basically everything.
Oh yes, I love them too. Red, yellow, Vidalia. Oh man.
Caramelize them. Can't go wrong. So yeah, that will take about 3-4 minutes to get to the softness that I want before I add in the green beans. And then usually with the onions, I'll start putting in some of my seasonings. So I'll show you a few of them. The ones that I add in ahead of time is garlic, because it's garlic.
It's the best.
And so I'm going to use measuring, like I actually use it for real, but I don't usually, but about a teaspoon is probably a good amount just to get in there to cook with your onions.
Mhm. Oh, that sounds yummy. That's really such a great base for cooking so many things.
Yeah.
So I'll use a little bit of olive oil, onions, and garlic, really to saute, even with celery and carrots for bean recipes too.
Yeah. And rice, I mean, really any dish can be started off with.
Yeah, it always tastes better.
Always tastes better. And you really can't overdo it on either of them. I mean, some people breath-wise may have some complaints, but taste-wise, you're not gonna go wrong. You can add as much as you want.
That's right. And it's good for you. Those
Yeah.
onions are good for you. And the garlic, yum.
Good for the heart. So since that's kind of gotten a bit soft, I don't want to get it completely soft because it's going to cook for about a total of 20 minutes, 15, 20 minutes with the green beans. So let it get a little softer and I'm going to wash my green beans off camera.
Okay.
They're already triple washed, but.
I know it never hurts to give it one more little spritz. Well, one of the things that I do when we bring groceries home from the store is basically wipe down those packages or the milk cartons with either a little soapy water or a little Lysol wipe.
Yeah.
Because there's so many people that handle those bags or cartons from the time it goes from the factory to the grocery store.
Exactly. And you just, especially with things going on the way they are, you just can never be too safe. Even before the pandemic, those are things that we did as well, because you never knew what anybody had.
Yeah, that's true.
So once you start seeing the onions start to kind of get a little translucent, that's when you know that they're reasonably cooked. They're not going to be too hard and cook nice with the green beans. So you just take those and you put them on in. And to that, I will add some curry.
Oh, yum.
Yeah, curry is always delicious. So again, about a nice heaping teaspoon, because another thing
Really?
you can't go wrong with. And I wish you guys could smell it. It already started to smell really good.
No, I bet it smells fantastic.
Definitely. And one thing I forgot is the ginger.
Okay. Oh, yes. Another staple, another kitchen staple.
And this one, just depending on people's preference, about a half teaspoon to a teaspoon of this is good. I eyeball most things. So it's probably about a half teaspoon in there.
I think a lot of cooks, excuse me, can identify with you.
Yeah. Once you start cooking a lot, you really kind of get a feel for most of this stuff. And the nice thing with cooking vegetarian is that you can always taste it. You're not worried about getting, bacteria in there from meat or
Right.
or eggs or something like that. So you can always taste it as you're going.
Oh, I found the cleanup is so much easier too.
Oh yeah.
When I got away from the animal products.
Oh, for sure.
Don't have all that, the grease or the fat or the oil.
And then the next thing I usually add I use a steak seasoning.
Oh, how interesting.
Yeah, because green beans are kind of like, they're thick. They're not like a wimpy vegetable. And so since they're kind of meaty, they can really stand up to these seasonings that are usually meant for meat. And so I find steak seasoning to be really, really good. So
Oh, I love that.
In the beginning and then keep on adding to taste once everything is cooked up. And
fantastic. Well, that is a new tip. I love that. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, I usually, whenever something is thicker, kind of, if you think of it as like meaty, then you can use those meat-based ones. And then, of course, you want a little bit of liquid, so some veggie broth is a great thing to put in there. Again, eyeballing it. That gives you a ton of good flavor.
Well, it's amazing how far that little bit of olive oil went too. It just goes to show how much you can cook with a 1 or 2 tablespoons. You don't need a lot.
You really don't, especially when you add like a liquid like the veggie broth, because when you cover everything, it's gonna steam. And
Mhm.
so it's gonna cook everything without needing to have that high heat on. So, I mean, that oil. So yeah, that's essentially kind of what I do. And so that will just cook, and you keep it on kind of like medium to
Medium.
medium lowish heat, closer to medium. And that will just cook for about 15 to 20 minutes. And then every like 10 minutes or so, 5 minutes or so, I'll taste one, see how it tastes. Because with green beans, the main thing is they're really, really fibrous. So you want to break down the really tough fibers that make you chew, and are really, really stringy and get caught in your teeth. And
Yeah.
just when it gets past there, that's when you want to stop, because you don't want soggy green beans. You want
Right.
that crunch. You just don't want it
Yes.
to be, I'm chewing for like 20 minutes to finish my turkey.
Forever. Exactly.
And the way I kind of holiday things up, because that's just my baseline, and then you can just add in like basically whatever seasonings you like. Once we get towards the end, the way I holiday season things up is add in some
Oh,
and some pecans. These are
what a
some
great
tiny
idea.
pecans, and then
Yes.
that
It
kind of
gives it a lot of pop, doesn't it? With
yeah,
the cumin, that's a wonderful idea. Cumin, ginger, and then the nuts and the cranberries. Yum.
yeah. And so yeah, that will be cooking for now. But I know we're gonna talk about some health related things and be tasting along the way.
Fantastic. So do you have that? Is it like a simmer? The broth is just simmering at this
Yeah,
point?
yeah. If I can, let's see if I can move this down. You guys can get a little close up of that.
Wow.
Yeah,
Oh, good.
it's
Okay,
beautiful.
I got it.
It
Yeah, that's lovely.
smells amazing.
And it's got to smell fantastic.
Oh yeah.
So we know that you work with men and women,
Yes.
and actually female urologists are very hard to come by.
Yeah.
As you know, I worked in the suburbs of Atlanta for years, and we didn't have anyone on the East Atlanta side. So
Yeah.
we love our urologist, but it's always wonderful for women to have a female to go to
Yeah.
also.
So urology is a really small field. There's about 13,000 essentially in the United States, and all of them aren't practicing, but it's around this and that. And so of that amount, only about 10% are women. So it's
Wow.
about 1,500. And of that, about 2% are Black. So less than 300 Black urologists.
Oh my goodness.
Like I'm Afro-Latina, I'm Panamanian, and there are less than 4%, so about less than 600. So
Wow.
it's really a small field, but there's a lot of these other groups within an already small field where we just have such a small amount of them. And that's part of the reason I started my nonprofit, is to increase the diversity in urology so that, like you said, patients can just have just a variety of folks to go to who will
Yes.
feel comfortable with and will understand kind of their life circumstances.
Yeah. And that's awesome. And I really saw that reflected in my medical school class.
Mhm.
In our medical school class, the physicians on the admissions committee, they did work hard to create a class of people that could relate to all segments of the population. And that's very exciting because
Yeah.
people do love to have the ability to go to someone that they can say, they know me, they feel me, they understand my background. And so yeah, that's just really exciting. So can you tell us a little bit more about your work with students? Because that it's unusual and it's wonderful, and we would love to hear about it.
Yeah, so with the whole nonprofit, the whole thing is for just minority urologists to support us from students throughout our entire practices. But one of the things we're best known for is our pipeline program. So in that pipeline program, I work with medical students who are pursuing a career in urology. Now, if just thinking about how few urologists are, if you can imagine, it's pretty competitive to get into. And so
Yeah.
it requires a lot of mentorship really early on, exposure to the field. Most people don't really know what urology is, even when we go into medical school. And so what my organization does is we expose students from their early years, MS1, MS2, so those are the first and second years of medical school, to urology, and then get them kind of wrapped into our program. It's completely free. And we start giving them mentorship, professional development. We do webinars with them, working on, how to become a good mentee, how to find a good mentor, how to, work on your research portfolio. We did application review for all the applicants who were applying this year, did mock interviews to kind of get everybody just heat up and able to showcase themselves in the best light so that they increase their chances of matching. And so that's what we do with the students. Yeah.
Yeah, that is lovely. And so how many students did you work with this year?
This year, I was just actually looking at the numbers. We have a little over 30 students just from first year to third year of medical school, but in the current applicants, we have 50.
That is fantastic.
Students
because you just got started not long ago, and all of a sudden it's exploded, hasn't it?
Yeah, it's really exploded. And so, that's such a big, it seems like such a big number, but it's such a huge deficit that I just want to get into all of the medical schools. And that's my goal for the upcoming years, is to get the program into every medical school so we can get students in and really work with them from the first through the fourth year, so that by the time they get to their last year, we know that they've gotten all the mentorship, all the support that they can, and they're just really in the best shape to match.
Oh, that is fantastic. So if we could shift gears a minute after you check the beans.
Yes, gotta check the beans.
We got to check those beans.
Always gotta check the beans.
Boy, that looks wonderful.
It looks so good. Yeah, so you start seeing that nice deep green.
I'm going to go to the grocery store tomorrow and buy green beans and make your recipe.
I know. I started, since you suggested this, I was like, oh, I'm gonna start making green beans. I think I've made it twice already since last, because they're so delicious.
Oh, that's great.
I could probably finish half of that tonight. I probably will.
Oh, I could too. My stomach is growling. So, as you know, I'm a GYN. I was a GYN for 30 years. And one of the most devastating problems that I saw was vaginal atrophy and urinary incontinence.
Yeah.
And it's a problem that everybody has, but nobody talks about it. And we'd love to hear what kinds of new solutions are out there that women can explore for those types of issues.
Sure. And so with vaginal atrophy, we see that in basically all women. Once we go through menopause, our vaginal tissues are supplied by and maintained by estrogen. So once we have no more estrogen floating around because our ovaries have done their job, our vaginas start to get dry, they get thin. So the cell wall layers are usually pretty thick when they're maintained by the estrogen, but they get thinner, so they become more irritable. You start getting more overactive bladder symptoms. You can have pain with sexual intercourse. And some of the most devastating issues are recurrent urinary tract infections that can, of course, get more and more severe. And so there's a lot of nervousness with the general population with supplementing estrogen orally. And a lot of that, I personally tell a lot of my patients, it's a case-by-case basis, and it really is, it's a hormone that we had naturally circulating. So it doesn't all of a sudden become dangerous to us. There's certain people who probably wouldn't benefit from estrogen because of their health issues, but for the vast majority of women, it's perfectly safe to use. But even if women are they don't want to take it by mouth, we can give them estrogen cream into the vagina. It works completely locally, and it can help to build back that barrier, protect against those urinary tract infections, help sex to be comfortable, eliminate that dryness, that urinary frequency, those things. So using estrogen cream, that's been around for a very long time. It's not, you don't just have to use the cream, but just basically vaginal estrogen. And so that's an old treatment that just isn't used enough. So more than a new thing, it's getting folks to understand that that's something that they should definitely use. I would say most women urologists, we already know, like the second our periods stop, we're going to start the estrogen. I personally will not be waiting for the side effects. I will be preventative measures for sure. And now with urinary incontinence, now that of course is a big bag, because there's a lot of reasons we can leak urine. And so when folks talk about why they leak urine, that they leak urine, it's really important to figure out why they're leaking urine. So the main things that we see, and most women, it's going to be either leaking urine with urge, with the urgency to go. It's usually associated with overactive bladder, or leaking with what we call stress or abdominal, like increases in our abdominal pressure. So with coughing, jumping, moving, getting up from a seated position, jumping on a trampoline, jogging, that's called stress incontinence. So they're treated differently. And that's really important for people to know. And then you can have what's called mixed incontinence, where you have both of them. And a lot of times we need to figure out which one is causing more of the issues, or if it's equally both. And then it's a question of which one do we address first, but we need to address them both. Now, with urge incontinence and overactive bladder, usually the first line treatment for that is going to be lifestyle modification, especially here in the South. Some of the things, I'll have patients come in and see me and they've been leaking and running to the bathroom for years. I give them some lifestyle things. I never see them again because they're
they suffer in silence.
I'm fine. Well, they'll tell me they're fine just from doing a few of these lifestyle things. So the first one is the caffeine. We drink a lot of sweet tea and a lot of Coke here in the South. You know, it's Georgia. And so the caffeine is a known bladder irritant. So one of the first things I tell people to do is get off the caffeine. I'm not going to take it away from them. I tell them just switch to decaf. I always say that one of these days I'm going to write Chick-fil-A a letter, because everybody here just loves their sweet tea, but it's jam-packed with caffeine. So I'm going to be like, please just have a caffeine-free version so people can get this tea, but they don't have to have so much caffeine. And the next thing is, let me just check these quickly.
Okay, let's do it.
Thing is,
yum.
Oh man, it's like really getting good there. And you can see like the liquid is starting to evaporate, and they just steam these beans.
Nice.
So the next thing is constipation. So we definitely tend to be pretty constipated in the South. A lot of our foods are very heavy and we like grits and biscuits. And so, but if you think about the pelvis, it's a bone, it's like basically a bony bowl lined with muscles. It doesn't expand. It doesn't matter how large we are on the outside. There's only so much space inside of your pelvis. So if your colon is full of stool, then your bladder can't expand. And so you're going to need to go more frequently. You're going to leak easier. And then as your bowels are trying to clear, everything, all your pelvic nerves are kind of more excited. So again, it lends to overactivity. So managing constipation and eliminating caffeine, and managing vaginal atrophy, if it's a woman and that's what's going on, those three things alone, I mean, they solve so many patients' overactive bladder. Like I said, like I don't have to usually go into medications,
that's wonderful.
Anything with those. But if they do still have those symptoms, then the next thing, the conservative management would be physical therapy. Working with a really good pelvic floor physical therapist is
that is fantastic.
They are life-changing. I love the physical therapists I work with. My patients love them because they really teach patients how to take control of their own lives. And I think that when we can avoid things that are going to cost a lot of money, beyond like chronic medications, beyond have to have surgery or anything like that, I'd rather avoid that. I'm sure most people would as well. And so pelvic floor physical therapy is a really good way to manage your overactive bladder and leaking with urinary incontinence.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And and those are hard to find too.
Yeah.
Physical therapists that specialize in pelvic floor, that's not easy to find either. So what a dynamic team you two are. That is fantastic.
Yes. And so if those two things don't work, the next thing for overactive bladder and urge incontinence is usually going to be medications. There's two different types, but really, you speak with your physician who's working with you, and they'll usually try you on two different classes of those medications to see if they work. Now they work in about 50% of patients, but again, remember, a lot of times patients get a lot better with these conservative management. So those patients who have true overactive bladder that there's, not really a cause we can find, then about 50% of those patients will get much better with medications. And so that's a really good way to manage. Now, if that doesn't work, usually we'll start doing, you'll be referred to a urologist at that point, and we'll start doing some investigations. We'll want to look in your bladder, make sure there's nothing inside of the bladder that could be causing this. I had a lady who, let me just take a look at these beans. I had a lady who had a bladder stone, a big old bladder stone in her bladder.
That poor thing.
Yeah, so that was causing her symptoms. All right, I'm just gonna take a little taste of these and see where we're at.
Okay. Oh, she must have been thrilled to get rid of that thing.
Exactly. It wasn't causing her any pain. She had never knew she had a kidney stone or anything. So it was a surprise, but then when we took care of that, hold on, a little hot.
Go for it. Take your time.
Yeah, so you see I'm not chewing a ton. So
they're ready.
Ready. So I'm gonna, so what I do here is I turn off the flame because it's still gonna be hot. Well, that was 15 minutes.
That's perfect. You got it down.
So now,
now we get to add in the goodies.
I get the eyeball. So I just tasted it. I think I'm gonna add a little bit more of the salt, probably a half teaspoon, because it doesn't need too much more. And then dump in some craisins, probably about a quarter cup. But you can put in as many as you want. And then similarly, about a quarter cup of the pecans. These are finely chopped. Sometimes I'll get just the pieces if I want them a little bit bigger. I like the finely chopped because it just disperses a little easier. It makes it feel like it's almost crusted.
Yeah, that's really cool.
About a quarter cup of that.
And it's wonderful to find those on BOGO sales too.
Oh yeah.
I try to watch the papers and get all my nuts, buy one, get one free. And it saves a lot of money that way.
It really does. Because nuts can be a little bit pricey, but especially around the holiday season, you'll tend to get those sales. So I kind of tend to stock up when I get stuff.
Absolutely.
I'll definitely get the BOGO times 2 or 3.
Oh, absolutely. I'm with you. I buy in bulk. My husband laughs at me, but why not?
Yeah. I mean, it's not like it has like some super soon expiration date. And, if you're cooking a lot, you'll use a lot of these ingredients. Like for this live, I didn't really go shopping for anything except for the green beans. I had the nuts, I had the craisins, because, put them in like breads or salads or rice. My mom loves to put them in rice. And so now I start putting them in rice.
Oh, good idea. Well, a little bit goes a long way with those things too.
Exactly.
Don't you find, a handful just really flavors the whole meal.
Exactly. Veggie broth, use this I cook my rice in this. I usually won't use water. I just cook it directly in veggie broth.
Yes, I'm with you. It makes everything taste so much better.
Exactly. So most of the stuff, it really is not, it's not as expensive as people believe to cook, healthy and with vegetables and whole foods, because most of the stuff you're going to use it over and over and over again. It's going to last long. It's just really getting the veggies.
That's right. Yeah, it's just getting into the habit and learning some new recipes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then once you learn a few recipes, you really just start experimenting, because it just takes like just starting and then realizing that, oh, I can do this. And well, I like this flavor. What would it taste like if I added this? You figure out what you like, and then you can add that into like basically anything.
Yeah. Well, I like the way you smell them first. And I heard another cook talk about that once too. She said, well, if you're wondering if spices will go together, take the lids off, hold them together, and take a whiff and see if you like the combination. If you don't do it. But if you like it, give it a try.
Exactly. That, veggies, fruits, I always smell my fruits too, make sure they're ripe. Use your nose.
Yes, that you got to squeeze your fruit a little bit.
Yeah, exactly.
Like
that, exactly.
That's great. So are your beans done, or do you steam them a little bit more with the craisins?
For just a few minutes, just so that, because I don't cook the craisins and the nuts. You can, but I just let it all just kind of sit there. But they'll be done probably in like 3 minutes. It's sat long enough and ready to go. Cool.
Well, we don't want to hold you up from eating your dinner.
No,
it was so much fun talking to you tonight.
I hope that some of your viewers learn something about at least overactive bladder and urgent incontinence. but just in general, realizing that there's treatments for that, and that, if you go to a urogynecologist or a urologist, will be able to help you out.
Yes, and that's wonderful news for women. They don't have to suffer for years.
No,
They really don't. They
no,
just need to find the right person.
it's not a
And
natural thing with aging. Like, please don't believe that. It doesn't just happen to women. Guys, go see someone as well. Younger women, a lot of times they don't want to, they think that it's, oh, I'm old if this happens. And like, first of all, age is nothing but a number. The more advanced the age I get, at this point for me, 110 is old. Everything before that, we're young.
right.
So, you don't have to live with these issues. Their quality of life, and your quality of life is important, and no matter what age you are.
That is fantastic. So we will make sure we have all of your information in the show notes.
Awesome.
And it's so much fun talking to you
It
tonight.
was so much fun talking with you too. And thank you for joining me in my kitchen.
Oh, it was a blast. We appreciate it so much, and we'll do it again sometime.
Definitely, definitely. Happy holiday.
Happy holidays.